all around the fishbowl they'd swim. She left him and he left her in search of someone to prefer. So why do we run away if our discontent seems to stay? Could you laugh if you saw what his schemes were? Just remember we still couldn't stay. Even he left him and she left her, and one by one they caused quite a stir. She did that and he did this. We all need a working hypothesis. So why do we run away if our discontent seems to stay? Could you laugh if you saw what your schemes were? Just remember we still couldn't stay. Even neither. Sam loves Tess and Tess loves Joe, and on and on and on it will go. Across an ocean of salt we sail on, toward undiscovered lands that would roam. Who do we fool when we run away if our discontent is here to stay? Could you speak of just what our dreams were? Just remember we still couldn't stay. Even
Beautiful.
Hey.
Hello and welcome to the Pink Sofa Hour.
Hey, so glad to be here.
Your name is Maud Robert.
Maud Robert
officially.
is the band name, yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for playing us on. That was a beautiful tune.
Thanks.
What do you call it?
It's called Eden Either.
Eden Either. Ooh,
Yeah.
I love alliteration. That definitely fits the bill in multiple fronts, I would say. It's a lot of E's. That's a really almost kind of haunting tune in its sort of like broken cadence, kind of like dragging the lyrics, sort of like get pulled into the song almost by like the chords a little bit.
I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm very into lyrics. That's a big part of what I do, for sure.
I can see that. I can
Yeah.
see that. I almost kind of felt some classic rock inspiration from that a little bit.
Well, in various phases of my writing, I would get really complicated, or I would, go the other direction and do kind of the Joni Mitchell make up your own chords thing kind of thing.
I got a little bit of that in the middle of that. There was like
Well,
upper sort of chord
Oh,
that,
that-
slid up? It's like was that like the fifth or something?
It's like a third, yeah.
The third,
And it's a little unexpected, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, this one is pretty straightforward in terms of the chords it uses.
Mhm.
You know, they're all typical guitar chords.
Cowboy chords.
Yeah,
we'll call them.
essentially, yeah. And so, as a writer, you kind of want to challenge myself sometimes to write something simple. And so for me, that was simple. For me, that was in terms of chords, it was straight ahead.
Yeah, no, definitely. Working within constraints is one of the ways, ironically, that creativity can kind of emerge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we touched a little bit about influences, and I feel like that's always a really good place to get to know where it is that somebody comes from as an artist. What would you say, personally, inspires some of your writing? You've already mentioned Joni Mitchell. I feel like your voice
Absolutely.
kind of reminds me a little bit of like Bob Dylan a little bit.
Mhm.
It's got that sort of like folky, nasal, sort of
Uh-huh.
twangy quality to it without being like grating.
Uh-huh.
What else?
Yeah,
you
Joni
throw in
Mitchell,
the mix?
Sean Colvin,
Okay.
Mark Cohn. Do you know Mark Cohn?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
I saw Sean Colvin and Mark Cohn in concert together. That was
Nice.
fantastic. The two of my favorites, of course, Joni Mitchell. I grew up with, classic rock. I mean, Supertramp was like when I was a teenager. Supertramp, Pink Floyd,
Yeah.
David Gilmour. Yeah. Those are kind of my big ones, I'd say. Yeah. I grew up with all the Pink Floyd stuff. That was a big deal for me when I was a kid.
Did you ever get to see him in concert?
No, I wasn't a big concert goer. I really should have, though. I mean, there's some fantastic stuff.
What's your favorite Pink Floyd album?
Ooh, that's hard. I mean,
Pre or post Sid?
post Sid.
Post Sid all
I mean,
day.
there's not that much before
Yeah.
with Sid, but
I always like to ask that question because occasionally people will be like, "Oh yeah, I'm obsessed with Sid Barrett," and I'm like, "Wow, okay."
well, it's cool stuff. It's so interesting. I mean, a band. I mean, it's a fairly long career that
Oh, yeah.
they had, and they spanned a lot of kind of eras. That whole prog rock era where, people were doing, album side
Yeah, of course.
songs. It's
Yeah.
like Animals, which
Dark
is.
Side.
I mean, I grew up with Animals. That was like for me a really big deal when I bought Animals. The Wall was kind of like. That was kind of really.
I love The Wall.
It's great. It's great stuff.
I once performed in a student composition when I was in college as the lead singer in the Judge.
Of the Judge.
Yeah,
It's great. Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's
And also
great,
in
yeah.
the earlier part where he's like, I forget what the song is called, but it's when he's like in the theater and like calling out all the different minorities.
Yeah.
It's a weird album, but I mean, it speaks a lot to the strange nature of society and culture sometimes, right?
Yeah. No, it's good stuff.
So why don't we talk a little bit about where you came from as a musician?
Mhm.
How did you get started? When did you pick up your first instrument?
Well, I'm actually, I have a background in classical music, so I play violin, classical violin, taught classical violin.
Was that your first instrument?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I
Okay.
was started when I was probably 4 or 5.
Yeah.
As young
Yeah.
young string players do.
Suzuki method?
Not Suzuki, but that was a little bit before. It was like right around when Suzuki was getting started in the
Okay.
60s, yeah.
Yeah.
So I started playing guitar when I was a teenager. Actually,
As most teenagers do.
yeah, and I got my first guitar was actually a nylon string guitar. I remember fooling around with a wide neck. But I bought my first,
My favorite.
Yeah, I bought my first steel string when I was in high school. And I started writing. I started writing from a pretty young age, and I've written my whole life. I kind of got really inspired starting like 2014. I started recording some albums. So I had, enough finances at that point to kind of pursue some of this stuff. So I could.
By finances, you mean that you recorded it professionally?
I had enough money so that I could do whatever I needed to do. So yeah, I have my own equipment. I do a lot of kind of the first initial tracking of my stuff at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go to a studio and add, drums, or, in the case of drums, you need so much more. Yeah, you just need a lot of stuff. You need a lot of mics. You need a good, whole mixer and everything.
A good room is really what makes the biggest difference too.
So I started to really put some stuff down, and I had a backlog of a ton of tunes at that point, but I just kept writing, and so I did some old tunes and some new tunes, and I started in 2014, and I've done 4 albums now. I'm kind of working on the 5th one now.
Yeah, you just released a single, right?
Yeah, a single
Bridges.
called Bridges. Yeah, it's more piano based, and so I've done a little bit with piano, like 5 or 6 tunes of mine are with piano.
And would you consider yourself a piano player, or mainly did you just sort of learn some chords and?
Oh, I'm not a true piano player.
Me neither. But like, if you give me the time to like rehearse a particular set of chords, like I could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing I was talking to another songwriter about that. It's the thing about piano is kind of cool. When I write on piano, you can go anywhere with chords. It's easy to modulate or decide. You hear something in your head and you can just plunk it here. But with guitar, I'm a little bit more limited in terms of.
Oh yeah.
What I can do.
It's a much more limiting instrument in general.
I'm not very facile or bar chords, and I do what I need to, but
there's only so many shapes that your hand can make on the guitar, and have I think that in a similar way to forcing yourself to write a simple song, limitations can be beautiful.
Yeah.
In and of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like that. It's very true.
Yeah.
Classical musicians as well. Classical composers did that. Stravinsky did that.
Right.
And he tried to limit himself, and he did. He was one of the ones that said that's how to get the creativity going. I've heard a lot of people say that. It's true.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite violin piece that you've played? Let's limit it.
That's very hard. I mean, I like so much music. I mean, I play a lot of chamber music and classical music.
Any favorite composers, perhaps?
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, just the other day I was transferring some old cassette tapes, and one of my very favorite pieces is a Ravel piano trio. It's fantastic work. So that's just one example. That
Sure.
Yeah. Great stuff. Yeah.
In terms of like string pieces, I always think of bolero for some reason. It always hits me just when I hear those sweeping strings just driving that snare.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
That's so cool. Yeah.
To give context perhaps to some of this somewhat intellectual musical conversation, you're a teacher.
Yeah.
You teach at CU.
At the moment, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you teach violin there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Violin performance, primarily.
Primarily, yeah. Most of the people that are at a school like CU are pursuing it as majors. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you get into teaching? Do you like it?
Oh yeah, I mean that was my main career, and I started when I was, I played my violin, got a degree from a college, and got into that. And back when I grew up, classical music was over here, and everything else is over there. And if you crossed over, it was, people didn't take you seriously.
A bit of faux pas.
Yeah, it really was. And so I grew up in that era, and so we all wanted to, do stuff like that, but nobody did. Now it's a little different. Like my students are all crossing over and doing all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
And then of course I'm encouraging that, and they see me do this stuff, which is a real departure for me.
I think one of your students might have shown up to my jazz jam.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because she definitely was a student at CU.
Uh-huh.
She definitely played violin.
Was it Olivia?
That's exactly who it was.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, Olivia, she's on study abroad this term, and she'll be back next semester.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, she's great, and she's doing writing, and so that was kind of cool because we got to talk about writing, not just, and that's been a nice thing about this part of my life right now. Is starting to mix up a little bit, So we of course we work on classical music in the lesson, but also we did some songwriting stuff. So I got to talk to her about writing lyrics and some of my ideas about that.
Very
it was
cool.
A lot of fun, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. She had a very creative approach. I think the song that she played that was really interesting. Well, it was we were all playing jazz standards.
Uh-huh.
I think she called "All of Me."
Uh-huh.
All of Me, yeah.
I don't know if I heard all of her stuff yet, but
Yeah.
yeah, she's doing something with her sister, and yeah, it's really neat. Yeah,
Nice.
a lot of folk stuff. Yeah.
So you travel a little bit too. You just came back from Oregon.
Yeah, I was there for the summer, part of the summer. Do a festival there.
Tell us a little bit about the festival. What's it called?
It's called the Redfish Music Festival, which is classical music, and at the moment, just focusing on classical in that. Because started a couple of years ago. It's a nonprofit. I'm kind of late to that whole idea.
Of nonprofits.
Yeah, I've had a long career in classical music, but I've never really gotten into the business end of it at all.
Sure.
And so it's been great, and learning about that. I should have started that earlier.
It's a great community building practice to
Yeah.
get out there and organize the time for musicians to come out and play.
Yeah.
What give us some details. How many artists played?
Well, we have it's a combination, as some of these classical things are, a combination of teaching and performing. So we have a classical
Like a master class kind of thing.
Well, we have students that come and stay with us for the week, and we work with them, and they work on pieces, and at the end of the week they perform. So a number of classical performances are kind of set up during the week, and we teach. And,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those kind of things are very common in that world. Yeah.
Right. Right. That's honestly one of the things that I feel like some modern music could learn from classical is, in particular, I feel like one of the closest analogs, I guess, would be like jazz and blues and funk and stuff of that nature. You can take on some of the aspects that I see in classical music concerts where the performers will oftentimes, in between their performances of songs, speak at length about the composer, about the piece, about their relationship to the piece, how it is that they feel when they play it.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that context is lost in the modern day, sort of like rock concert kind of era of just like play the songs, like keep people moving.
Yeah.
And there's something kind of cool and intellectual that exists with that I think attracts some of that energy. And a lot of times it happens, I think, with like jazz music, But getting a little off subject here. Tell us what your favorite song is to play that you wrote.
Oh, that I wrote? Oh my God. That's my favorite song to play. Well, right now there's a tune I wrote called Just Keep Walking.
Is that one released yet?
Yeah. All this stuff's on Spotify. You can find it, Apple Music, all those things. Just Keep Walking has been a lot of fun to play live. I have a little band I've put together now, and that one in particular is fun. I'm enjoying playing off people, and so yeah, that one in particular, I'd say it works better with a band because it has a lot of open spaces in it. So there's a lot of places for improvisation and stuff like that. So it works a little bit less well for just a solo kind of thing. But
Sure.
I like that one. Yeah.
That is that off Swords and Ghosts?
No, the Swords and Ghosts is the very last one I did, or
Yeah.
the last full album. Well, short full album.
That was back in 2020.
Yeah, that one, I did just 5 tunes for that one. That was during COVID. Then
That was my
before
next
that,
question.
yeah. Before that, I think I did. There's It's called Trudge the Dream. That's the album before that.
Yes, 2019, Trudge the Dream. 2016, Deep in the Curve. 2014, Better Late Than Never.
Right.
You wanna go chronologically? Or-
Sure.
I usually like to go reverse chronological, but
So, yeah, Eden Either, the tune I played, was on the second album, I think.
Deep in the Curve.
Yeah. And the first one, Better Late Than Never, was, like I said, I had kind of a backlog of things that I was trying and some new ones. And that was my first kind of experiment. And I think each one, as a musician, you feel like you get better and better each one. And my arranging got better, my recording got better, I'm proud of all of them. But the writing, as I keep going, I think, I'm proud of it. I think it gets better and better. When I'm young, I was only able to attack things from one angle, and now I can go from multiple angles, lyrics or chords or melody, and then as you're writing, one part of it informs the other part,
right,
and then it gets good. When I was really young, like a teenager, I could only do one thing: fool around the guitar, come up with a chord, and then
build around that.
Then build something.
Yeah. I like the title of the first album being Better Late Than Never.
Yeah.
I feel like it sort of tells its own story.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Yeah.
Was that the first thing that you had ever officially released?
I made some demo tapes like before that.
Yeah.
And so I had been in the studio, back in the dark ages when that was a really big deal.
Yeah.
See, now you can do so much with, GarageBand.
Yeah.
I mean, so when I started recording, it was after that era. So just the possibilities were so wide open. I could do so much at home, just to get started, and do my own keyboards or guitar, singing, all that stuff. Had a nice mic, and then you're pretty much just good to go.
Yeah.
And then you build from there.
Did you let's see. Did you want to perhaps play something off of one of? Would you like to go like chronologically?
Sure.
As sort of like almost a
Sure.
to break things up a little bit.
Yeah. I'll play one off the first one. This one, and actually live I do a lot of songs off the first album. So this one's called In the Dark Night, and this one works really well with the band too. But In the Dark Night is a lyric that does not appear in the song anywhere. It's just if you listen to the recorded version, you'll hear that lyric kind of in the background.
It's like a non-diatonic type.
Yeah, it's kind of just the way that worked out. It's about a road trip, and you're trying to escape yourself, but you can't. And so it's called In the Dark Night. Got my arm out the window, licked by the cool night air. I got those slime mountains at my back as I play my highway solitaire. Don't need to play no chicken, no stone walls or broken bridges. Just this Mobius ribbon drive on this flat, free, open heartland. Countryside, surrounded by a cage of pulsing steel, by a moat of flowing blacktop I'm concealed. If the fog obscures my view, I can't decide if it gathers on the out or on the inside. I flick my wrist, turn on the cruise. If there's hearts to gain, there's always more control to lose. I got my airbag when me and blues collide. Fingers light upon the wheel on this Mobius ribbon drive. surrounded by a cage of pulsing steel. In my modern mobile Xbox dream, that's cool. In spite of all my highway chill, I can't believe I found that still your ghosts are nil. You sparkle round my spinny head like dancing light from chandeliers. Let out of sight, turn the iPod high, swimming with the undertow, the fears that underlie. Surrounded by a cage of pulsing steel, in the question only future road reveals.
Nice. Now that's a highway song right there. I like that a lot. It definitely feels driving.
Yeah, had this image of living in Oregon. I had this image of driving south from Oregon, and I said I got those Sly Mountains at my back.
Sly Mountains.
There's also a line about the flat, free, open heartland. As you get down out of those mountains, and then you're in California. Yeah, it was all about trying to escape. Trying to escape your head. And you can't. It's just you can't escape it. You take it with you wherever you go. So.
What do you feel like characterizes mountains as sly? I feel like it's a fascinating. I like it because it's sort of a strange juxtaposition, right?
Those Sly Mountains.
But it's not necessarily. It's not like it doesn't fit. It's just.
Well, it's. I think for me, part of it was the protagonist of the song. That's the character of that person. Kind of this. I don't know, chill, cool, kind of laid back dude, and so there was this kind of like. The words and the kind of paints the picture of the character, I think, in the song.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
So, that brings up another great question. What do you feel like informs your songwriting process? How do you find inspiration to write what you are writing, and where do you go from there?
It's a great question, and what I write is pretty personal, and I go back to Joni Mitchell as an example. Not that I'm anything like her, but I always felt like her stuff was very, very personal. She's really describing whatever is in her mind or in her life,
Yeah.
And so the stuff, I write. I mean, I get inspired to write if there's something I really want to describe or talk about or process. So the stuff I've written for me is very precious. I mean, all the albums, every song, kind of describes a certain period of my life and where I was at that moment. So things start from some sort of a need to describe something
that you're feeling.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, like the very last song I wrote, or the last song I released, called "Bridges." The refrain in that song is.
And she said.
Yeah, that's the name of the album. And then she said, the refrain of that song is, the bridges that we cross and the bridges that we burn.
Mm-hmm.
And so that song is all about, moving on. And at this point in my life, I always thought that the image of, burning bridges was kind of always kind of a negative, destructive kind of thing. But now I actually, at that point in my life, I started to see how, no, you you could really close something off, and you could say I'm done, and you
True.
you burn that bridge, and it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's why Finland has a bunch of explosives planted into their bridges that lead into other countries, so that they could just blow them up at any time and be like, we're done. We don't want no part of that.
That's right.
Yeah.
You want to do this.
Yeah, I think Switzerland does that too. It's pretty nuts to think about,
Yeah.
but you know, it lends some sort of validation to the concept that destroying a bridge is not always a bad thing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So there was a 3-year period between this most recent single and Swords and Ghosts.
Uh-huh.
Swords and Ghosts, very evocative title, by the way. What was it that inspired you to title it that?
So, you know, I've done a lot of different things, and I actually was, in my mind, embarking on some sort of a concept album. And so I
love that.
So I had this idea of the, you know, that I don't know, that title kind of came to me. So actually, that kind of started from the title. So usually, I never did anything like that before. I actually started those songs from that title, and so Swords and Ghosts is kind of like the past, and you know, the pain from the past, and you know, those two things kind of together, and
The weaponry you used to battle.
yeah, and
The
so
ghosts.
I actually used those words in several of those songs,
I see.
Swords and Ghosts. And one of the songs, I phrase it like this, and to something about you have to put those swords and ghosts back to, send them back to the graves. So, you know, sending those things away. There was a lot of ways I used those. You know, some of the songs are actually kind of about ghosts. So yeah,
see.
that was kind of interesting. Yeah,
I see.
I had a lot of fun with that.
What is your oldest song?
Oldest one?
'Cause some people release songs far, far later than when they finish them.
Well, you know,
Occasionally, somebody will hold on to a song for 10 years and think about what it is that it's supposed to do until it shows up on somebody's, on a, you know, much
Yeah.
later album.
it's true. So, as an example, off that album, let's
Off
see.
of Swords and Ghosts.
Yeah, there's a song. Now I have to remember what's the name of the. What are the names of the songs of that album?
Let's pull it up.
Let me see what. There's. I pull up. If the stuff I've written, I can't even remember.
We've got Lay Down,
Yeah.
The Ballad of Mr. Black.
So the Ballad of Mr. Black.
Ah,
So that one actually is a very interesting one because I wrote the I had a chord keyboard, you know, when it was like ancient, you know, and
Love
they
those.
just sequencers were like a new thing.
the
and
microchord, the little gray
This
one.
this was like a
Real one.
was you know, back in the day, 1990, you know, it was like the thing. And I had actually like wrote the sequence, and I had actually there was a totally different song that had that sequence in it, and that's one of the only songs I've actually done that with. I actually went back and took that song and kind of rewrote it, and because I liked it a lot, but it didn't have I didn't have the skill that I had later.
Sure.
So I could really take it apart and really create. So we just had a sequence that just repeated over and over again. And there was no change in it at all.
Yeah.
But when I wrote this new version, I really made chords out of it, and I really created much better melody. And then it had a totally new idea with it. The Ballad of Mr. Black is all about. I hate to say this, but a lot of my stuff's pretty dark. As particularly songs about.
We are no stranger to dark songs on the
Yeah.
Big Stuff Hour.
Yeah, it's about there's a lot of suicidal kind of things in songs that I've written. You know, it touches on that, and so that whole song is about make Mr. Black a ghost. You know, that part of the thing was this ghost idea. The ghost was going to come in, and he had his sword, so that was kind of in there. So
Yeah.
Mr. Black is kind of like the the Grim Reaper, or I forget the name of the one who ferries the souls across the Hades or whatever it is.
Charon.
But it's that Mr. Black comes back in to help this person, this soul, who's thinking about ending it, to help them
I see.
do it.
Okay.
But I actually wrote. I mean, the song is dark, and then the last verse. In the last verse, what my intention is that he picks up the gun and he shoots Mr. Black, who is of course a ghost, so it doesn't really matter. And Mr. Black just kind of shrugs his head, shrugs his shoulders and then disappears. So there's a slightly positive ending, like no, I'm not going to do it.
A bit of a triumph over.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Over the malevolent spirit.
Yeah, but that one. Yeah, that was a really interesting one. I was really proud of how that one came about. But that one is not one I can play on guitar because it's totally based much more on synthesizer, and a lot of some of the tunes I've done. They're really I can't distill them to something like that. Yeah,
that's okay. Yeah. I am here to listen to the songs that you want to play. That being said, we're about I want to guess, without looking. Actually, this is a fun little experiment I like to do with people. How long do you think we've been on the air?
25 minutes.
Let's see how close you are.
35.
35, you say?
35, 25.
35 or 25?
I'll go 35.
37.
Oh, look at that.
25 was off.
Pretty good.
Not bad. Once you adjusted. Yeah.
Right.
Most people, I feel like they know exactly how long their songs are.
Right.
So they start kind of doing the math after they play enough.
Right.
Yeah, let's hop into another song if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. Let's see, what else? Okay. I'm going to do another kind of early tune.
Sure.
This tune lends itself. Some of those early tunes lend themselves to more of just a stripped down version. So this one's called One-Eyed Jack. And well, talk about dark, more dark images. This was the train with the single headlight, and so I call it One-Eyed Jack, and so I'm mixing some poker metaphors, and so this is a very dark time in my life. So it's called One-Eyed Jack. Distance, hear the whistle as the train pushes tired down the track. Hear the leaves as they scamper like pocket change on this cool hippie still black and night. I know the dark and sublime, and they both tired train gives up its warning, and the ground tumbles under your back. Hear the crows as they're squawking from power lines, the spot welded cars pass on the track. I know the force of falling mountains, and one can't stand. Someone shuffles and someone deals them. Once you look, there ain't no turning back. And now it's One-Eyed Jack at whom I'm staring, hands in my pockets and feet on the track. I've known the slide and the climb, and they both take time. They both take time. They both take time.
Oh yeah, that reverse strum. God, it's so strange that like the reverse strum adds such a different quality to
Yeah.
guitar strums, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it really does.
it's very dramatic.
Yeah.
I like the picking in the beginning too.
Yeah.
That arpeggiation stuff is always very near and dear to my heart.
I became very obsessed with it. One of my very early tunes, yeah, used that same picking pattern, which I don't know if I invented it or not, but it's pretty weird. I mean, it's like 1 3 1 3 2 4, and I don't know how I was able to even learn how to do that because it's not easy.
That's a very common classical guitar
Yeah,
style.
but to do it with just one pick is
With
weird.
Jumping
Yeah.
strings is a little tricky
Yeah,
sometimes. Yeah.
So that was a weird one, but
Yeah. Most people will usually do that hybrid picking.
yeah, and I've never done that, and I
Yeah.
never learned how to do that. So yeah, this is one of the weird things I kind of picked up when I was young.
Yeah. Have you ever tried playing a guitar with a bow?
No, like Jimmy Page, right? Yeah, Jimmy Page
possible.
got into that at one point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's quite a sound.
Yeah.
It messes up the bow though.
Yeah.
Pretty badly.
Use a different one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite holiday?
Holiday.
I like to ask some random personal questions sometimes.
Well, I don't know if I really have a favorite holiday. I mean, you know, I'm a dad. I got 2 daughters, and so my favorite holiday is any time that we get to hang out together.
That's a lovely
So,
answer.
yeah. No, we have a great relationship, and they're grown up now, wonderful women, and yeah, we get to do things together. I'm turning 60 next year.
Wow.
60,
Well, you look great.
and so
Sound great. Look great. Holding up real well.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to hanging out with them next year. We're gonna have a party.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's you've had such a career already with music, whether that be with your songwriting or with the classical stuff. Do you have a favorite performance experience that you've experienced? Whether that be on the violin or the guitar.
That's a great question. I mean, I do. I have some real fond memories. You know, I was on sabbatic. This is in the classical realm. I was on sabbatic and living in Vienna for a while, and I actually spent some time in Croatia. Which anyway, I was down there. It's a very special experience. I ended up hooking up with some people down there and doing a performance with a group there in this incredible like foyer of this building. And it was just really thrilling. I really enjoyed it. It was a wonderful time.
Nice.
In this realm, I spent so much time recording when I was younger. I mean, like as I said, you know, I started kind of more seriously recording, you know, in the mid 2010s, and so I didn't do as much live performing. So after I retired, so I've been doing this for like a year. I basically spent a year practicing, doing this, learning how to play guitar and sing live. You know, because I've been doing it in the studio forever.
Right.
It's a totally different thing when you play live, and
It is.
and actually, you know, I've discovered so much right away. You know, right away I needed to arrange my songs because they don't really work. They don't work in the studio version, you know,
Right.
because there's all these empty spaces that are filled up in the studio version. But you know, cutting a lot of stuff, making it a little tighter so that it's, you know, so even then, you know, there's still big empty spaces. But
Yeah, I mean, even having been the last time I heard it was probably March or something like that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can tell that you've improved a tremendous amount,
Thanks.
at least in the confidence behind your voice
Thanks.
and playing at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really great. I mean, that is one thing I've been able to utilize from my experience as a musician for all these years is, I guess, practice. I mean, just to know how to continually, work on it and get better and
Yeah, practice is in and of itself a skill.
yeah,
That
it's
needs
true.
to be practiced.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
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 It's tricky.
Yeah.
How to be, sort of not, I don't want to call it judgmental, but critical of yourself without being too hard on yourself, so that you can kind of humble yourself in order to
Yeah.
improve,
Yeah.
sort of a thing.
Absolutely.
It's quite a
Yeah.
it's quite a discipline.
Yeah.
So outside of music, do you find yourself enjoying any hobbies or anything that you find personally enjoyable?
Well, I mean, I love to hike. I mean, of course, Boulder's great for that.
Yeah.
And where I lived in Oregon is just some beautiful outdoor stuff. So that can be, very pleasurable. I love to hang out with my daughters, just see where. And I actually could like to go visit my daughters. One of my daughter is, I can brag about them. One of my daughters has got into audio engineering, and so she's
Nice.
actually traveling with some really, in my mind, big artists. And touring all over the place. So anyway,
That's super fun.
yeah. And so last time I was with her in Portland, I got to show up at one of her gigs, and just watch her work. And she's working with these boards that are
Yeah,
totally
24 channels.
overwhelm me. I have no idea what she's doing. I mean, I do my own mixing, of course, when I do my own band stuff, but this tiny little thing that I'm using. So that's fun. I love spending time learning from her. She's teaching me all kinds of stuff now. So,
The audio world is constantly changing, but
oh man,
man, it's also just built on some just fundamental, immovable principles too.
yeah. And so my experience is, like I said, recording. So I've got really, fairly comfortable with Logic, Apple Logic, and that's what I did all my stuff on. But live sound is a completely different thing.
Yes.
Completely different. And so that was another thing I had to learn about, really. Because I do my own recording, but I also use experts to do the mixing because, it's a totally different mindset.
Yeah, there's all kinds of analogies for it. When you're in a studio and you're recording, it's sort of like, I've heard somebody use this analogy that it's kind of like being a mechanic. You're trying to solve a problem, and
Yeah.
you have time to do that, and you're going to call the client back when it's ready.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas live
Yeah.
music mixing is a lot like being in a pit stop crew. It's like, something's going wrong. It
You
needs
have to
be
fix
fixed
it.
right now.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how she does it. It's really amazing.
Education's an incredible thing sometimes.
Yeah.
So we've heard 3 songs so far. Would you like to hop into another one?
Sure. I'll do a brand new one, which has not been recorded yet. So, and it's one of my more upbeat tunes, or at least up-tempo ones. And actually upbeat, So that makes it unusual. Most of the things I write have maybe they're on the, I like to say melancholy is my forte, but this one is not, actually. It's really positive. It starts out with images of, this kind of recent change of life that I had a few years ago, and talks about coming out of the dark cellar and starting over. So anyway, let me see. So let's see. This one's called "You're Free," and I'm actually not sure about the title yet. I'm still kind of it's in progress. But so this is called "You're Free." Climb those dark cellar stairs and raise the glass to the sun. Burn the map of
what was buried there in all receipts. Skeletons pulling out the drive as the flames rose behind the careful steps in reckless abandon. He smiled at everyone. There were those that rushed to douse the flames, preserve the names on each headstone, but he just smiled from the eye of that hurricane and turned away from what he could not atone, accept what has become and face the sun. No matter what came before, you're just a visitor. So accept this gift of amnesty, 'cause you're free, even if you stare at it. It's still a mystery, you can never hold it in your hands, 'cause it will find you, you're free, you're free. You've got to draw the bridge and close the gate. Take what you own and leave your martyred kingdom, abdicate your throne. So we binge another episode of this passion play and wear the face we leave by the door. We get lost in a part that we portray, we lose the part that we ignore. Accept what has become and face the sun. No matter what came before, you're just a visitor. So accept this gift of amnesty, 'cause you're free, even if you stare at it. It's still a mystery, can never hold it in your hands, 'cause it's bigger than the wide sea. You're free, it's freedom that we seek. It's not what we accrue, you can never find it if you leave, but it will find you. You're free, you're free.
Lovely. What a gratuitous show of showmanship. The big strums.
Yeah,
You got to throw a little something to the crowd, you know.
yeah, that one was wanted to write the anthem, you know, the victory anthem.
Yeah.
And you know, I've been around a little while, and yeah, and the beauty of it is I've had a wonderful life, and I've also been able to start over. It's great. It's a great thing.
Powerful.
It's real powerful. And you know, when you get to my age, you know, you can really fall into a trap. It's hard, and there's some challenging things that happen. I mean, your world gets very narrow because you've achieved a certain thing, and it's hard to. There's nowhere to go. You know, and then it's risky and scary to jump off the cliff and start over again. But boy, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know? So I did, and I jumped off, and I've been doing this for a while, and yeah, so that was a product of that whole experience. So yes, like I described, that really, it describes the exact thing that happened to me.
Risks can be tremendously revitalizing in
Yeah.
that sense. Yeah. You know, you mentioned one of your daughters is an audio engineer. One of your audio engineers is a daughter. And I immediately became nervous of what I'm doing here on the board, and I hope that it's good enough. If she's listening,
I'm sure.
if she's listening right now, just write your comments in the chat, and I'll make sure to fix whatever comments pop up. But you know, I've been doing this for a minute, so I think it's probably all right.
I think you're great. Yeah.
So we are coming to the end of the program
Okay.
a little bit. So I would like to give you the opportunity to play one more song if you'd like, and also, you know, do any shout outs and acknowledgments, mention any upcoming shows, plans for, you know, releasing the rest of the album that single
Yeah.
will probably become a part of.
Yeah, exactly. So, biggest thing is next Friday, September 22nd, I'm doing with the full band Maude Robert at Vision Quest at 6 o'clock. The week after that, we're playing down in Arvada at the La Dolce Vita Coffee House. So that's on a Saturday.
Nice.
So if you check out our website, modrobert, modrobert.com, you'll see all the stuff there. And I've got Instagram, Facebook, that kind of stuff. So you'll find those dates there. Yeah, so the new album, new tune called Bridges, which just came out. And so, you know, things have changed a little bit. So I decided I would maybe just do them one at a time now, because I got a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm kind of I have like 6 songs that are kind of in that last stage. I'm almost ready to send them to my guy that mixes them and masters them. So I do all the producing, and I edit everything like I want it, and then I send it to him. So I got like 4 or 5 tunes that are coming up. That one is not one of them. That one hasn't even been recorded yet, so that's brand new.
Nice. Yeah, singles are a great opportunity to just kind of keep people's attention.
Yeah, I mean, nobody buys discs anymore, so there just doesn't seem to be any point to do that. I've got a whole bunch of discs. Anybody wants some?
Yeah,
I got a ton.
It's a tradition.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
So let's see. I'm gonna try to end it with something kind of upbeat too. I'm gonna do. We're speaking about my daughter just a moment ago, and this is written for one of my daughters. So this tune's called "The Road Will Find You," and it was written. It's an old tune, actually. Written for her when she was pretty young, having a tough time, and so yeah, it was meant to be a way forward for her. So anyway, it's called "The Road Will Find You."
Maybe it's no surprise that here we go again. That old familiar place with those familiar friends. Or maybe it's just not so much friend as foe as we visit those empty places down below. It's like someone has drawn the curtains, blocked off the view, and rolled all of the street lights and the street signs too. You can't find the road, no matter what you do, no matter, the road will find you. You don't need no light, even a map won't do. To find the road you need to take, just to get you through. To help you find one thing that's real, one thing that's true. To get the will to break the case, to find the clue. Someone has drawn the curtains, blocked off the view, and rolled all of the street lights and the street signs too. You can't find the road, no matter what you do. No matter, the road will find you. Call out to the mountains, yell out to the ocean of blue, scream out to the heavens, for surely the road will find you. behave like we always do. It makes no difference if we sit and stew. Even if we think we're among the proud, among the few, the light comes to all, it comes to you. We have drawn all the curtains, blocked off the view. The little dot of the street lights and the street signs too. You can't find the road, no matter what you do. No matter, the road will find you.
Beautiful.
All right.
Triumphant. That was, I think that's a good one to end it on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here,
Yeah,
Robert.
thank you. It was a real fun to talk to you. It was great.
Pleasure, as always. Great conversation, and definitely wishing you the best with your show next week,
Thanks.
Vision Quest, next Friday,
Yeah.
and all your future musical endeavors. May they shine and flourish.
All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks again for being here. This has been the Pink Self Hour. Catch us next week for Grace Divine will be rescheduled, but we'll figure that out. Bye-bye now.